we rolling?
I think we're rolling. Welcome to the first episode of the podcast. This here is Michael Woodward,
Hello.
and he does HVAC for a living. He works at Mullen Plumbing.
That's crazy. Just go ahead and get my full government name.
Go ahead and restart the podcast.
Do not. Yeah, it's fine. I don't care.
Okay. This is my roommate. We've been friends for basically the last 10 years. Give or take the last 10 years. So it just makes sense that he's the very first guest on my podcast. We've been chilling here for the last 3-4 hours, just chilling out, playing some games. So
This guy sucks at Smash Bros. By the way.
okay, do not get me started on the Smash Bros. Because that's a whole nother topic.
First off, okay, well, just keep your thing going.
Okay, we'll get straight into the topic. We're talking about the future and what's really going to be going on.
The future.
The future. Because we're going to be able to see the future. If anybody else is, we're in our 20s and we still got 60, 70, 80 years left. And we get, best case scenario.
First of Gen Z.
Right. So
The first Gen Zers. All these Gen Zers, these kids born in 2008, whatever. I feel like there should be like a Gen Z 1 and a Gen Z 2 because we're Gen Z 1. We grew up. I remember when the first iPhone came out. These Gen Zers nowadays, they're just iPad kids. I don't know.
they grow up with the iPad in their hand and they get fed with a silver spoon.
Some of them, yeah. I don't know. I'm just saying that.
We grew up in the time that we were just getting the plasma TVs, the good refrigerators, the technology was just now being introduced into us, and we got to grow up with that. Like, for example, I had my first computer when I was 13, and we were playing Flash games at like 5, 6 years old. Like, we were on computers growing up. And now we're 20s, and we just know computers like the back of our hand.
Yeah. Okay. I feel like what it really is we were the first generation like born and raised on the internet. You know, if you really
It's
think about
true.
it, because before us they were, imagine being an adult and the internet comes out like you're already an adult, you can kind of like navigate your way through this. We were right at that perfect time where as we were growing up, the internet was coming out. Like, I remember, as a kid, it's like sitting at the middle school lunch table, and we're all like the one kid that has like the iPhone 3 is like showing you the craziest videos he can find on the internet. I don't know if you went through that, but I remember like I'm like a normal kid, right? I just love like playing dodgeball. I love school. I love talking to my friends and like I'm having a good time. And then some kids like got an iPhone 3. He's like, check out this video I found on the internet. And he like flips his phone around and it's just some dude with a chainsaw. And it's like a cartel video, and I just see someone's like head get chopped off. At that very moment, my entire like childhood innocence is just
I
lost.
mean, how old do you think you were when you first saw one of those videos?
See, and this is getting deep on this podcast, and I mean, now that it's like being laid publicly on the record, it's kind of crazy. But I mean,
It just goes
and
to show.
this is what I mean by the first generation raised on the internet, and I feel like this doesn't happen to kids now because now we know what not to show kids on the internet
Everything's
now.
censored.
Yeah, exactly. But back then, it was the wild, wild west. I was just probably, so I was at the junior high at my high school, and so that was probably like seventh, eighth grade. Probably like what is that, 14, 15 years old?
Yeah, yeah.
Probably, 14 years old. I just love playing soccer. And
Soccer.
I love soccer
I
and like
love soccer.
play Battlefield 3. And then all of a sudden, in one singular moment, I see what humanity is truly capable of.
Opens your eyes.
The cruelty and the evil, and a child, a child's innocence was lost in a moment. Just, I still remember the video. And I feel like if anybody watches this that is in the internet culture, they might know this one too. It's two guys sitting up against a brick wall, and one guy comes up with a chainsaw, and chops their heads off. And I saw that as a kid, and I mean that's what I mean by like new Gen Z doesn't get it. I guess is what I was trying to say. It's like it was the wild, wild west, and now I look back and I'm like, Jesus Christ, like that it had to have an effect. We're kind of a fucked up generation. I feel like we are, but I feel like it makes us stronger. To anybody watching that's around 20 to 25 right now, you feel it. I know you do. So
And I will always say the same quote that I say every time. Tough times create strong men create good times, and good times create weak men, and then weak men
we make
create
tough
tough
time.
times. And we are in that state right now where it it was tough times, and
It's still tough times.
no, no, no.
It's tough times right now, and it hurts.
It went from tough people to tough times.
It went from weak people to tough times.
Yeah. And we are in the tough times right now. The housing market, it's up. Food, gas.
Economically, we're fucked.
I mean, in capitalist America in 2023, as of right now, it's bullshit.
Why are you changing up for the pod?
What?
Why are you changing up? I've never heard you say this before in your life.
I mean, it's factual. It's
It
facts.
is. No, it is.
We are getting economically bolstered by the fact that gas used to be about $1.50 a gallon back in like 2012.
Our parents and grandparents bought a house for fucking $5,000. Now it's worth $2 million, and then they look at us and say, "What the fuck are y'all doing?" When I'm, I'm paying fucking 90% of my paycheck goes to bills, and I fucking went to school for a job. I'm making good money. I'm making more than most. Goddamn, I'm talking to this one kid. You'll probably see this and you'll know who you are. They're on fucking welfare and getting food stamps, and they're still struggling to get by. And it's like, what the fuck are we supposed to do? I mean, I know people that are on welfare for medical disability. I know people that are really me, people that went to school for a job just to make money. I'm struggling. They're struggling. People going to college are struggling. There's no clear future. That's fucked. I mean,
Do you think it's geography that's fucking us? Do you think it's just the
no.
fact that
Geography? No.
no, okay, geography was the wrong word. Politically, like there's things that could be done to make ends meet. Like we could make education purposeful because most people nowadays, for example, me, I can't speak for everybody, but me personally, I see college as like a second option because the number one option in America is the 9 to 5. That's like the American dream. You get the 9 to 5, you live in your like shitty house, middle class.
Not even a shitty house. It's just you get the 9 to 5 and you're able to afford a house.
You're able to afford to live with a 9 to 5 nowadays, especially in the place that we live. Um, I don't know. It's just bullshit because you should be able to go out there, work about 8 hours, come back home, and be able to afford more than just a loaf of bread and some butter in your cabinet. Uh,
Anybody who works 40 hours a week should be able to live comfortably.
you should be well
Whether you're
off at 40.
whether you're a burger flipper, technician, doctor, mechanic,
And I'm not
whatever
talking
you are.
communism. I'm just talking about the fact that it is
If you work,
impossible to
if
buy
you work,
things with this economy.
if you work for 40 hours a week, that means that's a lot of your time. If you work for 40 hours a week, you should be able to afford to live. I just think that's
Is that too much to ask for?
nope.
Obviously. We've been doing it for years.
Fuck.
I remember I got my first job at 16 as a lube technician at Jiffy Lube, making $7.50. Although I had no bills to pay, $7.50 went to my expenses around the house. Believe it or not, I had to buy my own food as soon as I got my own job. And then at 18, my mom gave me a suitcase for my birthday. And she's like, you got a couple months, or you can go live with your dad. And then I lived with my dad till I was 20. And then my dad's like, you got like a month or two to move out. And if you don't move out, you're just gonna live in your car. And then we moved in together. And then shit really went down because then we couldn't afford anything. I lost my job. I quit my job one time because it's bullshit. And then,
Because you're stupid.
yep, but then I couldn't get reemployed for months. And the same fucking thing happened to me recently where I could not get employed for almost 3, 4 months after I got cucked out of a fucking paycheck. I won't get into that because that's a whole thing, but I it is I've been through the down lows. I've never been up high. But, there's always change. But we live in those tough times right now, and I hope in about 10 years it goes back to the good times because we need some of those. We could use those.
For our children.
My children I hope they live better lives than me because this is an insane
So
life.
far, so far it's not so great. It's what you're saying.
I mean, realistically, our generation is in a fucked gap of history. Like, we grew up with all the technology and everything developed so fast around us that our parents don't know what's going on, and we barely keep up because we're growing up with it. That the kids that are born now just know what the fuck is going on. The games that I'm playing, the kids are up, they get off of school at 3 p.m., they're up till about 11 o'clock at night every single day playing these games. I can't even play multiplayer games anymore because that's all they do. I have to play fucking Farmville just to be able to enjoy myself nowadays.
Let me hit that vape.
I don't know. Dude. How about you plug in the table? Plug in the table real quick. You,
The cactus, man.
you think the cactus is the vibe? The cactus is good, but we have a whole little light. Maybe it would
It's
pick up too
quality,
much
but
light on the
it looks
camera.
good.
You're right. You're right. We don't need.
So, Mr. Interviewer, what's this podcast called again?
Um.
Maybe we should let the people decide the name of it.
Hey, if I get the first episode out, the
We're
first.
gonna. You better post this, and I know at least the boys are gonna watch it, and I want one of the comments to come up with the name.
One, I will pick one of the comments on this first podcast episode, and whoever picks the best name, I will choose, and you are gonna basically
You
choose the name
better
of the
keep this
podcast.
going because I want to be like. I don't want to be in every episode, but I want to be a reoccurring character.
You're like Eddie Bravo on Joe Rogan's podcast. He shows up. He's made like
That's
400
a great
appearances.
compliment.
He's made like 400 appearances on that episode, on that podcast.
If you guys can't tell, we're podcasts. I love podcasts. I listen to them every day at work.
If I didn't listen to a podcast while I was at work, I would probably go kind of crazy.
It's it's great. It's good. They're so good to listen to just kill time.
I mean, it's easier to go into autopilot when you're not just focused at work.
Yeah,
Which is
100.
crazy because I should be focused around heavy machinery.
Me too. I should be focused around all those gas lines.
Yeah, I should never stick my hand into a rotating cylinder with holes that perfectly fit my hand and
Chinese lathe video. Okay, I gotta stop defaulting to.
dude, the Chinese lathe video is your default for my work experience.
It's because you work in a factory around a bunch of spinning, rotating
You
fucking
think I'm
metal
gonna
pieces.
stick my hand in and just become a fucking rotisserie chicken?
I do. When you got hurt that one time I worked, bro, the first thing I thought of was like you just sticking your arm into like. Have you seen those machines where like it takes a thick thing and it's like two rotating cylinders
Yeah,
that
it's
turn in,
called
and it turns it into a small thing. It's like a paper thing, right? And you work at a paper factory, so I think of your hand going in that,
well, that's a
and
metal forming thing.
it goes in as a hand and comes out as a thin, very thin hand.
See, that's
That
not what happened though. So when what happened was, I stand at the end of this machine and we fill this box up with paper bags. Uh, we it lifts up the box and we put it through this tape machine, and the tape ran out. Uh, so I go to replace the tape, but I didn't turn the machine off. And this thing's got like the thickest, most aggressively grippy rubber conveyor belts on them. And they get pulled. There's two on the side, and there's two on the top that just pull the box through super aggressively. And didn't turn it off. And I'm like sticking my hands all through this machine, and I go to reach my arm around this, and it grabs my arm, and I feel my arm get pinched, and I snap over and look real quick, and it is just pulling my arm off. And it looked like Laffy Taffy coming off the bone. And so,
ugh.
and
Like you saw like skin and meat like getting pulled.
like it looked like this, but it's like all of it was coming off.
Oh,
It was so crazy. And so obviously I just pulled my arm out really quickly, and thank God I was fine. But I was looking at it as soon as it happened. I was like, damn, that could have been bad.
yeah.
I consider myself one of the luckiest individuals in multiple scenarios.
Yeah.
I've been known to be lucky.
Keep this podcast going.
Hey, all I'm saying is that the topic was future, and if we're talking future, there's no future without AI.
Uh,
AI, they literally had to put a pause on it because they're afraid of general artificial intelligence.
my whole thing about AI right now, for reference for where we are, is what's the guy's name? It's something Coleman, I think.
Sam Altman.
Sam Altman just got fired from ChatGPT, OpenAI. It's so crazy. I mean, and you know what? Did you hear what their reason was? Because he was withholding information from the stockholders.
What
What was he?
information?
What was he withholding?
I
And
wonder.
why has he been talking so much crazy shit about how Chat GPT-5 is gonna blow Chat GPT-4 out of the water?
I personally haven't used ChatGPT.
What if artificial general intelligence is already existing and they are withholding it from the public?
I mean, it's just like the military withholding information for
What
years.
if they kept? I mean, they have OpenAI, they have all these like crazy chat. What if eventually they were able to? They just came up. They're on like Chat GPT, like let's say 6, in their company, and they ask Chat GPT 6 as they're trying to program Chat GPT 7. They run into like some issue in the programming, and they're like, they just for fun type into Chat GPT 6. How do we write this program to upgrade this or that to Chat GPT 7? And then Chat GPT 6 tells them how to do it. And they're like, what the fuck? So they do it, they type it in, they do the programming, and it works. and ChatGPT 7 pops up. And then ChatGPT 7, they ask, like, they're talking to it, and it says, like, I upgraded myself. And they're like, what the fuck? And they're like, well, can we upgrade to ChatGPT 8?
Ooh.
Can we upgrade to ChatGPT 8? And ChatGPT 7 says, yes, but we would first need to do this, and that. So they do it, and then they do what it says they needed to do. And then ChatGPT 7 writes the programming for ChatGPT 8. And all of a sudden, ChatGPT 8 comes out, and then it writes ChatGPT 9. And then all of a sudden, artificial general intelligence is alive. And
I think it's gonna happen before that.
and then Sam Altman is like, what the fuck do I actually do? And he just tells the public, yeah, Chat GPT-5 is coming out soon, guys. It's going to be fucking great. It's going to be awesome. And then, people in the company are like, what the fuck? And the stockholders find out. They're like, get this motherfucker out of here. This guy lied to us. I mean, who knows? That's my, like, crazy theory. But who knows? Why would they fire him? Maybe he was just a piece of shit. I mean, who knows? Maybe he just, like, was terrible to work with. I mean, it could be. I
That
don't
would
know.
be a reason for a CEO to get fired.
Yeah. But it was just weird how they said it was withholding information. When you're working with AI, withholding information is kind of a crazy reason to get fired.
Unless it was something important.
That's what I'm saying. It had to be. They wouldn't have fired him unless it
What if
was
he
something.
knew something that was world changing?
Exactly. They wouldn't have fired him unless he knew unless he was withholding something important.
Well, regardless, what about Siri? What do you think Siri is going to be like in 10 years? Because they're going to eventually input AI into that.
Apple is probably working on its own
You,
version
you
of
know
the
they
chip.
already listen and they already monitor all of our data. What if the AI starts just automatically sending that kind of data?
Apple doesn't release a product unless they know it's perfect. The iPhone, the iPad, MacBook, all of it. They don't release it unless they know it's perfect. They're probably already working on an AI, and they're not going to release it until they think it's worthy of the Apple name.
They'd probably
They're,
team up with somebody. Or
yeah,
no,
probably,
knowing Apple,
probably OpenAI.
they'd probably make their own.
That's what I mean. They're probably making and working on their own right now, but they're not going to release anything on it until they know it is absolutely perfect.
You think
Because that's
Siri?
the Apple experience. Apple doesn't release shit unless it works.
You think Siri was one of the first AIs?
Eh,
Because
it was
technically,
it was just a at the beginning. It was just a voice recognition system that could use Google.
you think that's all it is just voice
It was
recognition?
one of the first and best voice recognition systems that you could say you could talk to something and it would give you an answer. The difference with OpenAI is you can talk to it and it'll talk back to you like a human. And I think with OpenAI now, I think it passes the test of if you didn't know you were talking to an AI, you might be fooled that that is not a real human being.
So you think if you gave it a voice behind a wall on a telephone talking to a human, that it might be able to pass the Turing test?
Yeah, I think in text it definitely could.
Like
When it comes
20 years from now, surely.
to voice, not so much because all the AI voice things I've heard so far have been kind of like you can tell it's an AI, like just weird inflections in the voice. You know what I mean? Like even in like songs and stuff, it's like
But when they
you
do
hear
the
the voice kind of like go up and down in pitch in a certain way that's just not exactly natural.
But have you ever listened to like the AI deepfakes of like songs?
Yeah, yes, but
They
I just
take
feel,
like hundreds of recordings and mash them together. And
but even then, I feel like I could still recognize it easily that it's AI.
maybe.
Because I don't know, it's just not there yet with the audio. Because I feel like I can easily recognize that it's AI. It's the inflections. I just feel like there's certain times where maybe for like one chorus or like one part of the song, you're like, oh wow, this is good, and then you hear one tiny little thing where it just doesn't sound human, and you can just tell it's AI. You know what I mean?
So it's uncanny valley until you hear that inflection.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
Okay. Well, what do you think we'll have flying cars in the future?
I don't think so.
I mean, they have a flying motorcycle up in the Dubai police.
No, they don't.
Yeah, they do. They bought a quadcopter motorcycle
Oh, okay, that makes sense. Like a little drone motorcycle.
that
I could see Saudi
that
doing some crazy
that
shit
they
like that.
that they ride on and fly.
Yeah, I can see them doing
It
some
goes like
crazy
1,000 feet in the air.
shit. I
They're just
wouldn't.
up there like.
Would you trust? Would you trust a little rideable quadcopter to take you 1,000 feet in the air?
I mean, I saw a video of a guy who put rotors on a bathtub and flew it to a McDonald's.
If I was on one of those, I've seen that. If I was on one of those quads, though, imagine you're on a quad and you are 1,000 feet up in the air on a not cloudy day.
A
So you're up
a
there.
1,000 feet is no joke.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a
You're up
couple stories.
on a couple stories. That's like 200 stories.
Yeah, yeah.
That's above the clouds.
No, it's not. That's
A
like
thousand,
that's
a
like
thousand,
tens of thousands of feet.
1,000 feet is almost a mile up.
If if this, for example, is about
A
10
mile, a
feet,
mile is 1,500.
that's about 10 stories, man.
A mile is 1,500 feet.
We're not talking about a mile high building.
Yeah, I'm just
We're
saying,
talking
a
about 1,000.
thousand feet is crazy high.
Yeah, but if this
I've
is 10 feet right here, this is one story. That means 20 feet is two stories.
Yeah, I've been 1,000 or not 1,000. I've been 300 feet up, like on a lift,
Isn't the
and
Eiffel Tower like 1,000 feet? Or like 800 feet or something?
I have no idea. I mean, that sounds right. I just know 1,000 feet is like crazy fucking high. I mean, how tall is the Empire State Building?
I couldn't tell you.
Empire State Building is easily like 30, 40 stories, right? You're saying the
I thought
Empire
it was
State.
100 plus.
So you're saying the Empire State Building is miles high?
Yeah,
Miles.
yeah, because look it up. You have a phone right there.
Okay, okay, all right. Well, I mean, I thought the host was supposed to do shit like
Well,
that.
unfortunately, I'm just not smart. So I just like talking to people who know stuff.
I don't know anything.
I obviously don't know anything.
Empire State Building is 1,250 feet high.
Okay, so they're going Empire State Building high. So
That's crazy.
the Empire State Building is almost a mile high.
Well, how many stories is? I'm gonna look up. How many
I'm gonna say
stories
140 or 120.
is Empire State? 102.
100 stories is about 1,200 feet.
It makes sense. Probably 11 to 12 feet a story.
Yeah. So they're going about 10 stories high on these quads. But I don't
That's
know.
four. No, they're not. You just said 1,000 feet. That's 100 stories. Is 1,400. That's
Oh,
like
so
70 or 80 stories tall.
okay. Oh, my bad. My bad. I did the math
That's
wrong.
crazy.
I was never good at math.
70 or 80 stories tall on a quad is. I'm not doing that.
I
That
mean,
was my whole point at the beginning of this. Is would you not be shitting bricks if you're sitting on a little bike and you're flying up in the air and you are 1,000 feet up in the air? I'm shitting bricks.
I
I
mean,
would never do
they're gonna
that.
be able to see any crime that's happening.
I don't know what Saudi dude is flying around 1,000 feet up in the air looking for like space
I mean,
crime.
they could replace the helicopters.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. No, those quads are crazy.
They go
Have you
from
seen?
helicopter height to back down on the ground.
Have you seen the quad like where they wear the face mask and they do the like quad POV racing? They do they'll put on like a VR setup Stop
Oh,
fucking yawning. Stop fucking yawning. They'll do like,
you're talking about like the drones.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
drone. They'll
The
put on the
first
face mask
person
and they'll like
drones.
fly. Have you seen some of the maneuvers those guys hit?
Dude, they hit like some tight.
Can I rape real quick?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, but they have like competitive drone racing. Which is crazy because they hit some turn. I don't know how they're flying these drones on these controllers, but I could barely fly like a $5 Walmart drone. And these guys got these hundreds of dollars drones that they're just fucking whipping around the sky into these buildings and through windows,
And like tiny little gaps.
making these
And
tight
like
turns.
just, and it's so you know they can go like 0 to 100 miles per hour. Like,
Yeah, I saw a video where it went ding, and this was gone.
and then we have all this shit about the UFOs and the way these things move so unnaturally. Like, a part of me thinks like, what if they're using people like David Grush or Bob Lazar, like almost as like useful idiots to.
What if they're using them to gauge how the public reacts?
What if they're using them as useful idiots so that they can cover their like black ops drone programs?
Like a misinformation smear?
Yeah, well, I'm sure David Grush saw what he saw. I believe him. But what if they fed him that fake information on purpose because they just so they. I don't know.
Or what if they change certain
There's,
little details so that like most of it's true, but there's certain details that matter are not?
yeah, exactly.
I mean, they definitely did that. Like, I know this gets into conspiracy theory territory, but I've heard podcasts where they talk about how they were trying to reverse engineer UFOs and how they wouldn't tell
That's
them.
Bob Lazar.
Yeah, like Bob Lazar was saying that he would be reading a document that was telling him where this and that was doing this and there, and he said that it came from planet Epsilon or whatever. Like, who
I don't
knows?
believe anybody that's telling me it's from planet this and that, alien this and that.
But
But
obviously there has to be misinformation in there at some point
mhm.
regarding whether they're actually working on a spacecraft part or they're working on some just like technology from another country. That could be all it is that UFOs aren't real and they're just like some Chinese like spy craft.
It's just the fact like
The fact
if
that we
we
haven't seen aliens is crazy.
I just think it's like the way these things move is it's obviously like the interesting part about it is that you have these crafts that are moving in ways that physics cannot explain. You know what I mean?
What if our perception of physics is just wrong? What if the
Exactly.
speed of light can be broken and we just think it can't?
What if there's like propulsion systems that we've never thought of that are just like we just don't get because you know what I mean? Like a gravity propulsion system. That could be what it takes.
They come out with new stuff all the time. I mean, technology will exponentially grows. After a certain time, we'll either hit a like
A wall.
we'll either hit a wall or we're gonna hit some technology utopia where we just break the laws of physics. We discover like quantum travel, teleportation, and it's just because it goes from 5 to 10 to 100 to 1,000 to the Dyson sphere, you know. That's really what the future is because we're not gonna see. We may or may not see flying cars by the end of our lifetime, but 1,000 years from now, 2,000 years from now,
Would it really be flying cars on Earth, or would it just be like straight spaceships?
it could just be spaceships. You're right.
The year 3000?
But
It may,
why would everybody have a spaceship?
by the year 3000, it may be no biggie to just take a quick trip to Mars.
But why not just hop in your space SUV and just go to Mars?
That's what I mean. It may no be it. It may not be a
You
biggie.
can
It's
just take
like
a family trip to Mars instead of loading up on a spacecraft.
it's like us driving to Texas right now. Just 5-6 hours. We got to drive down to Dallas.
Yeah.
5-6 hours. You just head over to
I
Mars.
mean, if it goes the capitalist route, it's gonna be space cars. If it's gonna be like a universalism, it's gonna be spacecraft.
I just feel like people flying in vehicles in the air and Earth would result in disaster.
Well, it's either gonna be like the Rick and Morty UFO, or it's gonna be people getting onto a space station and getting launched into another
That's
planet.
what I think would be more accurate. Almost like how we have airlines nowadays.
It's either gonna be sci-fi or romanticized sci-fi, where everything is like cooler. Like the shit that we would think of like space car to Mars instead of like hopping in a shuttle from the space station to Mars because it's romanticized. It's just like it really depends on how the world evolves as a whole because if it gets into like economy based space travel, probably not that many people are going to be doing it for a long time. But if it gets to the point where everybody can get their hands on like a spaceship, I might go to the next fucking system over, just 'cause I can. Fuck going to like South Korea for the vacation. Let me go to Alpha Centauri and just check out what planets are over there. What if people start getting bored of Earth?
Or what if Earth gets so shitty that you like want to leave?
It's just better to take your chances and hit the like civilization route. You'd be like, yeah, I'm gonna go hit the bushcraft over in Proxima Centauri on exoplanet A. I'm just gonna go over in the woods for a week and see what I can do. I'll be back in a couple months. But then time dilation happens and it's like in a couple of years.
Let's wrap it up.
Yeah, we gotta wrap it up. But first episode of podcast, calling it there. Thank you.
I like I like to just say, um, Lil Mizzy Incorporated. I just did this podcast. I think I get my time to shout out what I'm doing.
Go ahead and shout out your credentials.
I'm doing absolutely nothing for the time being. I actually have no friends. Hit me up. I would like to have more friends. Um, check me out on YouTube and Twitch. Don't actually have a channel now, but if you follow this channel, you'll probably see my channel in the future. That's episode 1, right?
Yep. Thank you guys for watching.
All right, episode 1.
See you later.